Tractate Bava Batra, page 117. We will start at the Mishnah, very bottom of page 116b. Here, the Mishnah dealing with the subject of Chalukat Eretz Israel, the dividing of the land. Obviously, this is the biblical time, but as we see later, is a lot of derivative for our days. We zoom in the subject of daughter of Tzlofchad. This is the biblical story of the inheritance. 5 daughters of Tzlofchad at the end of book of Bamidbar, chapter 27. It was a fellow by the name of Tzlofchad that passed away, and he left 5 daughters, no sons. His father was named Hefer, was also not among the living, and they asked for future inheritance in the upcoming land of Israel that was divided. Moses transmit the case in our language, obviously, to God, and God justified their request, and he asked the Moshe Rabbeinu, Moses, to follow their request and give them a portion in Eretz Israel, and the Rashbam add also a portion of Hefer, the father. So obviously the subject is the law of inheritance, especially in the cases like that, involved with daughters, etc. We start with a short Mishnah. Bnot Tzlofchad, as we see in the Torah, we have this biblical case of daughter of Tzlofchad, which obviously we have to have the derivative, as we know, in a simple way. When a woman gets married, she many times take over the new name of a new family, and in those days it was the issue of tribes or tribunal attributes, which means each tribe have their own portion of the land. It was divided by the tribes, and at the first stage, we learned several days ago, they ask to, in a structure or put a enactment to have it within the tribe, meaning they shouldn't marry outside of their tribe. Later on, it changed. So the 5 daughters of Tzlofchad, with a great faith of the future of our people, they basically collected 3 portions of their inheritance in the land of Israel. Bnot Tzlofchad natlu 3 chalakim benachala. They took over the way that you structure the pesukim, the sentences. We're going to learn it at length on page 118. They took three portions, and our Mishnah is going to delve in the subject, how and what and why they get 3 portions. So they first stage they tell us, obviously, since the father Tzlofchad was no longer among the living, Chelek Avihem, meaning the first one, Shehaya im Yotzei Mitzrayim. It's the Rimigash explained it was a Tanaic disputations when it's come to the people who left Egypt among the, obviously, the Exodus. The Torah give a very clear statement, which is from people who are the age of 20 and onward, and people who basically left Egypt. Now, it was divided to several segments, which is the people who left Egypt but die in the desert, people who left Egypt and make it later on, like Joshua and Caleb, to the land of Israel. So the subject here, I'm just using this as a case scenario. Let's say 2 people, Reuven and Shimon. Reuven and Shimon both left Egypt, but they die in the wilderness. Now, Reuven has 10 sons, and those 10 sons entered the land of Israel, versus Shimon has only 1 son. Now, according to this Mishnah, Reuven and Shimon, they basically holding 1 portion of inheritance, each of them, and this only the son of Shimon takes by himself 1 portion of his father. The 10 sons of Reuven collected together the portion of their father. Tzlofchad, who left Egypt, was obviously at least 20 years old. He had these 5 daughters. So even though the Rashbam explains that he died in the desert, he merited when he left Egypt to be among the people who have a portion in the future land of Israel, and that portion his daughters collected. So they said the next one, since we said the 3 portions, so the first one is the portion, as we said, of the father, the late Tzlofchad, that he was among the people who left Egypt. The second one is Vechelko im Echav benichsei Chefer, since his father name is Chefer, meaning Chefer was the father of Tzlofchad, who is the grandfather of these 5 daughters. So he was also obviously followed the category of people who left Egypt, who was at least 20 years of age. So therefore his sons has the entitlement of inherited a portion in the land of Israel, in addition to their own portion, because there are also people who left Egypt. So this portion divided between his sons. So this portion that his son Tzlofchad entitled among the other sons, since Tzlofchad was no longer among the living, the 5 surviving daughters collected additionally the portion that their father Tzlofchad has among his brothers, the other sons of Chefer. So basically, in a way, the granddaughter, the daughter of Tzlofchad, inherited the father's portion within his father, which is their grandfather. That's what we learned, by the way, on page 115. Kol hakodem benachala, anyone who take precedence when it's come to inheritance, the Rashbam said, Yotzei Yereicho Kodmim, the people who come in direct line, they take precedence. So since Tzlofchad was one of the sons, the daughters inherited. Now the third portion they inherited the land was Veshehaya Bechor Notel Shnei Chalakim. The Torah instructed us that the firstborn entitled to double portion. Now Tzlofchad was the first son of Chefer. Since he was the first son of Chefer, he entitled to get, by the biblical terms, double portion of his father's inheritance. So that portion, double portion, his daughter gets. So even though we learned, if you remember several days ago, the idea of muchzak and ra'ui. Ra'ui meaning, if you remember we talked about husband-wife, so if she left a estate, so as long as they are in a state of marriage, he entitled it. But if she is in the future entitled, it's called muchzak, entitled to some portion from her father who is still alive, then the husband is not entitled to that portion, because the husband entitled only the ra'ui and not muchzak. So in a case, this one is a muchzak, but here they said, and later when we explain it at length, on page 119, the idea is that the Ritva and others explain that it was kind of exceptions, but that's the reason why they presented in the Torah. But as you see in the final point, with all together, the daughter of Tzlofchad have, either you call it 3 or even 4 portion in land. They have the portion of the father, Tzlofchad, that was among the people who left Egypt. They have the portion of the father among his brothers. They have the portion, the double portion that the father have as the firstborn, and therefore there is a notion that they get another portion, which in a way you can call it a 4th one. He has one of his brothers, Tzlofchad, who died childless, and he was among the people who left Egypt. So that also the daughters, as the portion among the brothers of their late father Tzlofchad, they also get that part. The Rashbam elaborates on that, and we're going to learn in the session on page 118. Here we are, page 117, the top of the page. Tnan. We learn in the Mishnah that one of the three portions, the daughter of Tzlofchad, the granddaughter of Hefer, received was the portion that he was among the people who left Egypt but not entered the land, which means the derivative for our understanding is that each and every one of the people who left Egypt has a portion of in the land. So the Gemara wants to clarify that that's not the opinion of everyone. Tnan, what we learned early in the Mishnah, that Tzlofchad in title have a portion to, in the future in a way, to receive in the land of Israel because he was among the people who left Egypt, כמאן דאמר ליוצאי מצרים נתחלקה הארץ, which is, there is a view that said, it's in book of Bamidbar, chapter 26, they said that the people who left Egypt was divided by portion, and the one who's the dividedness of the land of Israel was among those who left Egypt. But the Tanya, Rabbi Yoshia אומר, ליוצאי מצרים התחלקה הארץ, שנאמר, לשמות מטות אבותם ינחלו. The Torah said that the land, the Eretz Israel, was divided among those who left Egypt because the statement in the book of Numbers, chapter 26, according to the names of the tribes of their fathers, they shall inherit. So what we learn that the Jewish people will inherit Eretz Israel according to the names of their father, meaning those who left Egypt. And Rabbi Yoshia continue, אלא מה אני מקיים לאלה תחלק הארץ בנחלה. What exactly do I realize the meaning of the pasuk, unto these the land shall be divided for inheritance? Basically that the land was to be divided among those recently counted in the wilderness, which is those who would enter the Eretz Israel. So he said, the answer, la'ele ka'ele lehotzi et hatfalim, meaning we wanted to exclude it when we mentioned the term, the word la'ele, unto this, like this, meaning that those people who are in a sense below the age, which is the structure of age is 20 and up, those people did not receive the portion. The Rashbam elaborates for many sources, it's based on many sources, and he said that the structure was that people who left Egypt, who are exceeded the age of 20, those are the only people who receive a portion. Anyone who's below that, neither him nor his future inheritors will have a portion in the land, because that was the structure the Torah mentioned. Not everyone agree with that. Soon you see another two views. The second view, which is a disputable view, is Rabbi Yonatan. Rabbi Yonatan אומר, לבאי הארץ נתחלקה הארץ. He said, no, you don't go by the people who left Egypt, you go by those who entered the land of Israel, which is, you don't go by the backward, but the way that they came from, but you go to the place that they go to. So hypothetically speaking, if you have two people who left Egypt, and one of them has a son that entered the Eretz Israel, so and the other one had, let's say, 10 sons, and the only son received one portion, and the other 10 received 10 portions. So as you see, it's all depend upon, but basically according to Rabbi Natan, it's going by the future. Why? Because he bring the pasuk la'ele techalek haaretz benachala. Ela ma ani mekayem lishmot matot avotam yinchalu. How do you have understanding for the pasuk we mentioned earlier? So they said that meshune nachala משונה נחלם זו מכל נחלות שבעולם. You cannot compare this inheritance from all the other inheritance of the world, which is the חיים יורשים מתים, שכל נחלות שבעולם חיים יורשים, that means all the other inheritance of the world, the living inheriting those who are dead. וכאן, here, when it's come to divide the Holy Land of Israel, מתים יורשים חיים. In a way, it's the dead inherit from the living, which is the portion of the land received by those who enter Eretz Israel were transferred to the fathers who left Egypt, and then inherited by the current generation. Now, the Rabbeinu Yonah explained that it's like subdivision. You take the portion and you divided it, and they redivided it. It's like the father inherited from those who left Egypt, and they bring a mashal, like type of allegory, to extrapolate the point. And they said, Amar Rabbi said, Emsho lecha mashal, he will give you a parable to explain it. למה הדבר דומה, how this is compared to, לשני אחים כהנים שהיו בעיר אחת, two brothers who are, people who are born to a priesthood family, which means that they are kohanim, priests, so they are inhabitants of a city. לאחד יש לו בן, ואחד יש לו שני בנים. One kohen has one son, the other brother kohen too has two sons, and they agree upon dividing the portion that the Kohanim receive as special contributions to the temple, which obviously it can only be divided among the Kohanim because it carries the sanctity and it's a consecrated property. So therefore, vehalchu lagoren, and those sons went to a threshing floor, and they basically collected a portion that the father entitled to. So זה שיש לו בן אחד נוטל חלק אחד. The Kohen that has only one son, obviously he takes one single portion. And וזה שיש לו שני בנים נוטל שני חלקים. The one, the two sons, has two portions. So now, if you go back to the parents, meaning the fathers, the portion that divided is different because one has one son and another one has two sons. But they said umachazirin etzel abihem, so in a way they return the portion to the three portions to the father, and then redivide the portions among themselves equally, v'chozrin v'cholkim b'shaveh, which is obviously 1.5 to each and every one of them. So in that sense, that's the way they divided the land. That even the land, according to Rabbi Yonatan, divided by those who enter the land, he said the portion in a way returned to their fathers that left Egypt, and then they redivided again among themselves. So obviously, the Riva, Tosfot bring the Riva, said that he is derivative by the way you analyze the pasuk la'ele techalek haaretz, to those people the land divided, lishmot matot avotam yinchalu. So it means that it's divided also in a way, kind of again, but he said, the Riva said in Tosfot, that applies solely for the brothers who left Egypt, and therefore they do it again. But Rashi, if you see in Bamidbar 26, verse 55, he said that it go back to the grandfather that left Egypt. But anyway, this is a Rashbam, long Rashbam here. You're welcome to read it. We just give you the vignette, but now we go to the third opinion, and the third opinion is Rabbi Shimon ben Elazar. Rabbi Shimon ben Elazar Omer, 117b la'elu, meaning the people who left Egypt, ule'elu, the people who entered the land, nitchalka ha'aretz. כדי לקיים שני מקראות הללו, in order to fulfill these two biblical pesukim. Rashbam explained to us that the land was divided according to the people who left Egypt, as well as according to the number of those who enter the land of Israel. So here the Rashbam notes that Rabbi Shimon ben Lazar disagree with Rabbi Yonatan and hold that there was no reversion of inheritance to the older generation. Rather, there was an additional portion that the current generation inherited from the earlier generation that left Egypt. So, in a sense, ha exactly how it was divided to these two. היה מיוצאי מצרים נוטל את חלקו מיוצאי מצרים. If someone passed the age of 20 and he has a sons in a desert and he passed away before they entered the land of Israel, and his sons were less than 20 years of age when they entered the land, so therefore they were not entitled to take a portion from people who left Egypt by themselves because they don't have the basic age to be entitled. So therefore the portion they took, the Rashbam explained, it's from the father who's among the people who left Egypt and have that requirement of age. So it means that that's mikan umikan, so it means that he was among the people who left Egypt and past the age of 20, and is also from the people who entitled because they entered the land. Notel chelko mikan umikan, which means according to Rabbi Shimon ben Elazar, there are those who take portion in the Eretz Yisrael because they are among the people who left Egypt, and there are those who take from because they are among the people who entered the land, and there are those who take from both. Like three. So therefore, you see, it's anyone who aged of 20 and upward when they left Egypt and died in the desert, excluding Caleb and Joshua, all the rest. That's the story of the children, the sons that get the portion because of their father. Tosfot, Rashba, and many others elaborates how exactly the structure of the inheritance. We just go by the basic Rashbam explanations, and then we go to the story, well-known story of the spies. As we know, we have 12 spies, and unfortunately only 2 make it. And the simple explanation, it was the bad mouth, the Holy Land of Israel, and as a result they die in a desert, and the whole generation that cry for in vain at that eve of Tisha B'Av, they die in a desert. But Yoshua veKalev natlu chelkam, since it was sent out by Moses 12 spies, and only 2 return with a positive report, Yoshua and Caleb, and the rest of the 10 die because of their sins in a desert. So even those spies were among the people who left Egypt, and it appears that their sons entitled to collect the portion of their late father, but they did not in this case receive a portion. Only Joshua and Caleb took their portion as a reward for them, for their refusal to take part of that council, of evil counsel against Moses and Aaron. So the language of daughter of Tzlofchad we derive from the kind of dialogue of daughter of Tzlofchad and the response of God, etc., that the sons of the spies did not take a portion in the land of Israel, because they said, when they talked to Moses, they said that Avinu, our father Tzlofchad, was not among those who bad mouth and spy the land, and therefore they entitled to take a portion of the father. So we derive from that, the Rashbam said, that Joshua and Caleb they not only get a portion of the land because they entered the land, but also the portion of the other 10 spies who die and the sons did not get a portion. Mitlonenim, people who complain, is nothing new. They come and complain against the leadership of Moses and Aaron at that time. Va'adat Korach, and the council of the wicked Korach that rebel against the leadership of Moses and Aaron. Lo haya lahem chelek ba'aretz. Again, this is a derivative from the back and forth with the daughter of Tzlofchad, when they asked to collect a portion of the inheritance of their late father, Tzlofchad. They said that the father was not among those people, the council of Korach, the people who complain, etc., etc. So again, we have the same notion of derivative, that their sons did not receive. Habanim natlu b'zchut avi avehem u'b'zchut avi imotehem, which is fascinating. The sons received because they have grandparents who are righteous people, and grandparents from the mother's side who was a righteous people, who among those people who left Egypt. So that's the reason they get the portion. So they said, "My mashma hadehai lishmot matot avotam beyotzei Mitzrayim ktiv dilma lishvatim ka'amar." So how do you, from word may it infer that this pasuk, according to the names of the tribe of the father they shall inherit, is written in regard to those who left Egypt. So it may be that it states a statement about the 12 tribes. So he responded and he said, Dichtiv, because the Torah said in the book of Shmot, chapter 6, verse 8, V'natati ota lachem morasha, ani Hashem. I'll give it to you as inherited, I am the Lord. Which means that Eretz Israel is inheritance for you and for your forefathers. Yerusha lachem me'avotechem u'liyotzei Mitzrayim ka'amar lehu. He talked to those who left Egypt, because that was the intent of the pasuk. They said that those who left Egypt inherit the land. That's basically the sentence that applied to Eretz Israel, and that's the meaning of the pasuk, Lishmot matot avotam yinchalu. I would like to conclude with the Rambam. The Rambam wrapped it up very nicely on Hilchot Nachalot, the law of inheritance, chapter 1. If one has two sons who both predeceased him, and one of them had one daughter and the other had 3 sons, the granddaughter inherits half of his property, and the 3 grandsons divide the other half. If the granddaughter's father was the firstborn, she inherits 2/3 of the property from her grandfather, while the grandsons divide the other 1/3. You see more of that in the code, in Shulchan Aruch Choshen Mishpat 276 and 277. The idea is because, as the Rambam explained, that in the other commentaries, they say that the descendants of one who is entitled to inheritance receive the inheritance through him. But as we see, there is way more to discuss this matter, and Mitzvah Hashem, tomorrow we'll go further with this topic.